All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's Board of Health meeting. This meeting is broadcasted live and recorded by Foxboro Cable Access. Today is January 22nd. We are going to start right ahead with our agenda with Bay Colony, and they are discussing an upgrade at 81 Ridge Road.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir?
Everyone see that?
Yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Cameron Gray. I'm here tonight on behalf of our client to discuss the waivers requested for our project at 81 Ridge Road. So 81 Ridge Road contains an existing single-family house along with the associated garage. It's located on the northerly side of Ridge Road. It's about half a mile from Alleward Lane and borders the Neponset Reservoir to the north. So the existing septic system out here consists of a septic tank, distribution box, and flow diffusers. And it's located in between the existing home and the existing garage. So it's kind of faded in the background, but you can see the septic tank. And then I show the distribution box. And we weren't really able to locate the flow diffusers, but we believe it's kind of in the area where I'm showing the proposed pump chamber. So this project will consist of constructing an innovative and alternative septic system with a pump chamber to service the existing home, which will require waivers to be constructed. So the waivers are necessary due to the proximity of the lot to the Neponset Reservoir and the size of the lot. Since the lot has been previously developed, we're restricted as to where we can place the septic system components. So because of the Neponset Reservoir at the rear of the home, the optimum solution is to move everything to the front of the lot. So we're getting at least 100 feet from the banks, but it would not be physically possible to meet the 150 local bylaw setback. So we propose to utilize the existing 1,500-gallon septic tank and connect to the existing outlet pipe at the tank, which will then feed into our pump chamber, which will then dose our septic field located at the front of the lot up near Ridge Road. So the leaching field will sit approximately 126 feet from the banks of the Neponset, where 150 feet is required, and the septic tank will sit approximately 75 feet, where 100 is required. Since we're in a sensitive area, we chose to use a Presby leaching system, which provides enhanced treatment. So the Presby systems provide additional treatment to the effluent that comes out of the septic tank. So it captures solids and promotes the development of the biomat to further treat the effluent. So due to the existing pipe elevations, topography of the site, and as well as the gravel driveway, it would not be possible for me to meet the allowable maximum coverage for the pump chamber. So we're proposing 4 feet of coverage where the maximum is usually 3 feet. So per Title V, since this is a repair, we can have additional coverage over the tank up to 6 feet as long as we provide an H20 loading pump chamber and provide adequate access. So in this case, I'm proposing to have both of the covers for the tank set at finished grade. So, and then because this lot is located within a Zone 2 and the size of the lot is only about 10,338 square feet, the system cannot be expanded beyond its existing 2-bedroom capacity. Therefore, we have prepared a deed notice for the property, limiting the amount of bedrooms to 2. And I think that just about covers everything, so that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you guys? Yeah.
Just one question. So you're proposing to keep the septic tank, correct?
Yes.
So can you certify it, that it's the integrity of it?
Yeah, so before construction, we'll go out again and certify that it's structurally sound. So
Okay.
I just have a disposal construction works permit from the Board of Health I got from Diane.
Yep.
So we think it was installed in 95.
Do you have any questions?
No, I like that they did the deed restriction already. So.
One question about the date. Is that something I need to sign?
You can.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That was my only question.
Okay, so I would just say the design otherwise meets Title V, rather than that, just like it says here, the pump chamber has 4 feet of cover where the maximum is 3. So, I would recommend, we don't have any objections to this, so I'd recommend that you allow or grant these waivers.
Okay.
Okay, would you like me to make the motion?
Sure.
Okay, I make a motion that for 81 Ridge Road in Foxborough, that we allow 3 variances for 310 CMR 152217. The pump chamber has 4 feet of cover, where the maximum is 3. The local regulation leaching field 126 feet from an inland bank, where 150 is required. And from our local regulation that the septic tank is 75 feet from the inland bank, where 100 feet is required.
Second.
Any comments, concerns, questions? No? How do you vote? I vote aye.
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 All right, that's 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
Nice and easy. Okay, so let me clean up. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have Olive and Mint. There was an appeal to a decision that was made by our director. If you want to talk about that, I know they're not here, but.
Sure, absolutely. So basically, just to give you a quick update in history on what happened, on November 14, 2023, I sent the owner of Olive and Mint Nervy Incorporated a notice that I was not renewing their food permit this year based on multiple items. The items that I laid out in the letter were the owing of back taxes, real estate taxes, and water fees to the town. The fact that they were using areas of the establishment that were not permitted within the food permit, based on their interactions with police, fire, and building departments, whether it be overcrowding, parking control, things of that nature. During this time, I also found out that the town of Walpole was concerned over the non-payment of their sewer system bills. So we were not sure if they were possibly going to shut down the sewer from Walpole. Also, at one point, they were operating without permits, and in 2021, I previously suspended their permit for some time. So based on all those items, I sent them a notice that said basically that we're not renewing their permit. So since that time, they've made corrections, they've paid off back taxes, and done other things to try to reinstate the license. I wanted them to come back in front of you. I didn't want to be the one to do that. I had rescinded it. So I believe that they should come in front of the board for a final say. Unfortunately, they're out of the country. They want to be here for the hearing, so they requested that we move it to the next available one.
That's fine.
Okay,
We
sure.
can table it until they're back and
Do
we
we
have
have to make a
another
motion to
meeting.
table, or
Or do we just table?
do we just table it?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so I make a motion to table the discussion on Olive and Mint's permit renewal.
I second.
Any discussions, comments? How do we vote? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so then we're going to move forward with the Town of Foxborough Board of Health regulation drafts that we sent out a couple months ago. We've received quite a bit of comment. So if we kind of just want to go through that and see what updates we probably can make.
Sure, if you'd like, I can go through these one by one.
By subject? Could we do it by subject?
Yeah, absolutely, and give you a little synopsis on what people said, and then we can discuss,
Okay.
if that works. The one I'd like to start with was the dumpster regulation. The item that was most commented on the dumpster regulation was the verbiage of a tight-fitting lid. I think people were concerned that someone might take that too literally for a dumpster. So I think a rewording of this to maybe a lid that completely covers all openings or something like that
Yeah.
might be better for the community. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, that's,
No,
I did notice that, but they also, I'm sorry, Robin, you started to speak before me, go ahead.
no, that's okay.
There was that, and then there was the idea of, I think someone mentioned it commonly, just surveying it constantly, like having it to be under, not quote lock and key, but constant vigilance over the dumpsters. Somebody commented on something like that, and I was like, huh?
Yeah, that was, well, there was a couple of things. One is they were concerned about the enclosure.
Yeah.
That came in later, yeah.
And
That came in today.
I think for that, if somebody if they can't put a closure for some reason, they could always come in for a variance for that. So that, to me, that wasn't a big deal, that I think most of them should have an enclosure, and if there's a particular incident, that we could ask for variance. There was one that also asked for, I don't know, they were concerned about costs, but we're not charging for that, so
I think the cost was the tight-fitting lids.
Okay,
They thought they
because
might
I
have to
didn't
change them.
Yeah, I didn't understand that one.
And there was also a concern about, our definition of it being a nuisance if rodents got in,
Right.
wildlife got in. I explained to that individual that it's under the state sanitary code anyway.
Right.
That the Board of Health could call that a nuisance if that happened. So, this regulation, it really wasn't going further than the state code in that aspect. So,
Right.
and they seem to understand that.
So there were, I think there were like 3 comments, and from the comments, it seemed like I would like our regulations to stand as they are, and if somebody had a problem with the location or whatever, but I expect anybody that has a dumpster, yes, that they do have to take care of it, and yes, there might be a day that it's overflowing, and when they find out, then they take
fix
care of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So what would be your recommendation to change the verbiage off of the tight-fitting lids and just say lids?
Something that completely covers all openings.
Okay.
Because you don't want animals getting in there.
How
You
about
want
just
it
a
covered.
closed dumpster? Instead of
Closed.
tight fitting,
Sure,
closed.
closed. Yep, we can do that.
Okay.
Would you like to, is that good?
That's good with
Moving on?
me. Yeah.
All right.
We'll see what the second, I do have a question about the
Sure.
follow-up to this. Once these are adjusted again or re-edited again, do they go back out for public?
No.
Oh, no, that point, we just are
Well,
going for public.
they go for public
Public
hearing,
Yeah,
and they can comment on it again, but it's more final that time.
okay.
The next is the fee schedule. John's Dream Ice Cream commented that Foxborough does have a strict policy when it comes to payments for nonprofits. And he's right, we do. So basically, right now, we restrict it to churches, schools within the town, and, it could be broader. We could word it in a way that says, a nonprofit that gives back to the town of Foxborough, the director could have, some sort of say in the approval of the, the waiver
Waiver
of-
for the fee?
for
Yeah.
the fees.
Or the other thing, when I saw his comment, maybe a suggestion would be maybe for existing nonprofit events operating for at least 3 years, like John's Dream Ice Cream. I didn't want to leave it open because anybody could say that they're a nonprofit, but since we already have a history of, with certain groups in town that are going to be, like for Founder's Day and
Yeah, I agree, but there are some hard situations, like we just had the Army-Navy game, and, we had nonprofits coming from all over the place that we don't see, and that maybe,
That's why I
Yeah.
said for at least 3
oh,
years.
for at least 3 years,
Yeah,
not in
maybe-
town for 3 years, but in general
Right.
for 3, okay. Yeah, because it's hard.
Yeah, for the
in
event.
that
for
aspect.
at
Yep.
least 3
So,
years.
I'm sorry, what do you mean for 3, so they don't have to be
For,
incorporated?
because John's Dream Ice Cream has been doing it for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
long time.
But-
So
but
when we
incorpor-
do the regulations, we put in those going forward that for existing that it doesn't apply to existing nonprofit events operating for at least 3 years in the town of Foxborough. That
Okay.
was my suggestion.
But that's similar to, in the vein of giving back to Foxborough. So then the exceptions would be something like the Army, Navy, like, I'm not sure what agencies came forward.
But if there's so
that.
many that come forward, that's still a lot of work for you to do, so.
Yeah, it's up to you, whatever, you guys want the policy to be. I like it when it's flexible.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could, would I look up the 401(3)B of every single one to find out when they were incorporated? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's a matter of just judgment at the request.
Or why can't we say, like I had said, maybe for exempting existing nonprofit events operating for at least 3 years, or at the discretion of the health director.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or at the discretion is a good.
Yeah, we can add that part.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we can get to the housing regulation. The housing regulation and the requirement of the certificate of fitness testing was obviously the most commented
Yeah.
on and the most controversial to the community. Most commenters didn't find a need for such requirement in order to compromise with the community. I'd recommend maybe some changes to it. Some things that we could do would be change it from being required to maybe the health department can offer free certificate of fitness inspections to any owner, but at the same time, maybe allowing us to enforce against owners that have a bad track
Yeah.
record. So, if someone is seen to be not in compliance with our regulations, we can order, for them this moving forward to have these certificate of fitness inspections. That way, it's not broadly through the community, and it's more associated with, the people that, have been non-compliant.
Right.
If we want to set a time frame, maybe we can say after 3 years of, good certificate of fitness inspections, or however many compliant inspections, we can,
Yeah.
we can get rid of it, but
I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of the issue was with folks who owned multiple rental properties, dozens and dozens of rental properties that have high turnover, that it is a bigger burden on them. I mean, financially and time-wise, it's a big burden on them, and there's not much rent and good renting sometimes to find if people are staying in their housing for a long time. So I do get that. I think at least I like the option of mandating it if it becomes a problem, because that's kind of what we've been trying to tackle.
Yeah.
Are those problems?
Could I ask a question? So for, was the reason, because there are, since I've been on the board, there's been a couple that we've dealt with, but we could always, when they come in, say that you can't rent again until, as an order for that particular case, until we see the apartment, like we
Yeah.
basically
But you're
did
speaking
for
of the
that.
bad actors, right? The known
Right.
bad actors.
So instead of having it as like a regulation, shouldn't it be a case by case if they come before us? And then have it as part of the order to correct.
We
Have it as
could
a
do it that.
policy, right?
Yeah, well, we could, it would, the part that says, we recommend that people do this, I mean, that would obviously be a policy. I think the certificate of fitness or pre-inspection, that's not defined in 105 CMR 410, so I think, that could actually be a regulation if the town wanted to allow it. It's something that I believe we could order as well, but I guess I'd leave it up to the board if you wanted it to be more of administratively or on the record.
So if we kept
For a
the
regulation.
certificate of fitness as a reg,
And I believe there's other things on that regulation as well, besides just the occupancy. And I would have to get,
I think it's just that the compromise, you want to send out the most effective thing to get the message out that, like, I choose the term bad actors again, but that they should be on notice that this is something that could be happening to them. But you don't want to, punish or impugn all these other folks who, in good faith, operate in good faith with their rental, turnover.
Yeah.
Especially given housing the way it is right now with it being a premium, you'd want to learn, people need the housing, so.
And there are towns that give, like a certificate of fitness for, if somebody wants to rent and they need something from the Board of Health, then I think that we should have a policy so that they have to pay for that inspection.
as an option, yeah.
But if, I think though, in general, listening to, we got quite a bit of feedback from the housing, unless there's a huge problem that we can't solve another way by an order or by an inspection, because anybody has the right. I remember when I first moved to Foxborough, I had a problem in an apartment that I rented, and I was very grateful for the Board of Health at that time. But everybody always has the right to ask for, an inspection. So unless, both of you could, tell me that there's a great need for this regulation, I would say I would do away with it.
It would just be an ad as requested?
Well,
I would-
they
by
could do that
tenants.
without
They could do
the
that anyways.
regulations, yeah.
I mean, we've seen a lot more
Yep.
in the last few years, but it hasn't been some of these bigger complexes. And I think that's where most of our feedback is coming from,
Yeah.
are the bigger complexes. And they're more organized, they're more law-abiding for the most part. It's typically when it's smaller
Yep.
that we end up with a lot more problems. So I don't want to do away with it completely. If we can have it as a policy, if we can have the reg,
I don't know how you
if,
could.
I mean,
Does it only apply after there's been complaints? Like,
yeah,
at what
after,
point?
if we can only require
trying to
it
do that.
after, a certain degree of complaints.
that does happen. Someone's
Yeah.
moving out and they say, hey, I hope no one moves back into this unit, please, that
Yeah.
is a common occurrence in the health department.
So
So-
could we do it that if we get, more than 2 complaints in 2 years of a certain property owner, then we require it of theirs until they show us some clean, until we get no
I mean,
complaints
does it have
for
to
the
be
next
two?
2
Oh,
years?
yeah,
or-
One or more, 2 or more?
Do other towns have thresholds?
Yeah.
Should we do a threshold of 3 to 5? I think 2 is a little
Not
bit.
that I'm aware of, but I can look further. I mean, a lot of communities do have certificate of fitness inspections.
Okay.
There's numerous of them. So I would have to, delve into them, but I can come back to the board.
Yeah, if we can
And
find
if
a
it's
fair
something
number.
that we scrap for now, we can always bring it back later.
Yeah, I just think it's got to be that balance because you want to protect the
The
residents who are in
do-gooders.
and protect the ones who are doing the right job, not burden the people who are doing their job well.
But we also want to protect those people who end up in really awful
Absolutely.
situations.
Well, that's what I'm saying, protect the
Yeah.
tenants as well from
Yeah.
from the bad.
And maybe that's one of the things, though, that we talk about, that, that we could use our platform with our website, that to let people know that if they do have problems with an apartment, that's one of the things that we could help people with. Do you know what I mean? That we could be proactive, that people don't have to be afraid to come to the board, or know that they can come to the board.
Okay.
So how then would this be, do you want to keep it in, but it said we have to kind of reword it so that we have to have some criteria, or,
I would really like to see a whole
Threshold, man.
rewrite, if you're going to keep
A whole
it, like,
rewrite?
really.
Well, right. I mean, I think if it was a rewrite, it would have to be rewritten to say, the Director of Public Health, upon complaint or multiple violations of the state sanitary code, would be able to require such certificate of fitness inspections.
For
I don't-
a length of time.
Yep.
That there's no complaints from that.
Yep.
particular-
I don't think that requires a whole rewrite. I think we need to massage the language a little bit.
Okay.
But I think we can keep it out. We'll edit it, we'll put it back out there before public comment,
And we can bring this back again. I mean, we don't have to go to public hearing the next meeting. If you want one more meeting to look at it, we can absolutely do that.
okay.
okay.
I think that's a good idea, just to be sure, before it goes to public
That'd be good.
Public hearing.
public
Okay, no
hearing again,
problem.
yeah.
Can we update the website if we,
Yes.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Private well regulation, the comments focused on analytical testing requirements. The health department, at least when we do review those analytical testing requirements, we do find overages of drinking water standards, even for if someone's going to use that as a irrigation well.
We didn't even update the private well, right? Because that was just revised a few years ago,
Right.
so
No.
we didn't touch it this round.
No, but this is their comment of the current regulation, so
Okay,
just bring that forward.
So my comment on that is.
Yes.
I think they should be tested, because people take a hose and they could drink out of it, and.
Well, Gen X did.
What?
Gen Xers did. I don't know if anyone else going forward is, but
So one compromise I was kind of thinking about that is maybe having them do the initial sampling, and if it's clean, then maybe for an irrigation well, then, they don't have to do any further testing, because
That would.
it is cumbersome even on our end to do it. But, if there is an overage that we should keep track of, maybe they keep it. So maybe that's something that we can add in there if the board wants to.
so how
I don't know,
would that change then?
So it wouldn't require retesting of wells if they came back clean after the first analytical on irrigation wells. So now they have to retest every 5 years?
Unless something.
10 years?
Unless there's construction in the area or something like that.
well, see, now there's always going to be construction,
Yeah.
so I think we should keep it in and
Yeah,
leave it
so-
as is.
Or keep it in.
I think we should leave it as
We
is.
And
just
then,
had- we
and then
had
people
just
just
one
have
comment.
variant, would this be a variance request people would have if they needed? Or no?
I wouldn't have it as
No.
variance.
No,
I wouldn't do it as a variant.
okay.
I just think if they want to have a well, this is what they have to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
We only had one comment.
We did. We
Yeah.
did.
Okay. And this was an existing, this is nothing.
yeah, we didn't even touch it. We didn't update it, so.
So, swimming pools, we did get some comments on swimming pools. The lifeguard, the way it's worded, it's a little bit different. I explained, the way I understand it, at least, it's not too far. It's pretty similar to the way we've been doing it already, except with this regulation, we're saying, we're going to give everyone a variance, and then we'll take it away if, at least that's the way I understood it, all existing
Yeah.
places would have a variance, and then we could take that away for any reason.
That's not quite what I thought.
Okay.
So, I thought that people could ask for a variance, and that if there was no, and that it could be routine if there were children involved in it. And so that when you talk to Normandy Farm, I wouldn't say that they would be exempt variance because there's a lot of kids. It's an active. Some of the other pools where it's a condo, where there's not that many people there, to me, that is much safer to give a variance. That was the conversation that I thought we were having. And
Didn't we
I
have
apologize if
someone
it
from
didn't
Normandy?
come across that way.
Sorry.
Someone from Normandy did come, yeah.
Yeah, someone from Normandy did come in, and they were okay with the way it was written at the time.
No, well,
No.
no,
No?
no, because I talked to Attorney Lovely today.
Yeah.
And
I saw his
they are
letter,
very interested on what we decide here regarding it.
and he
And
said,
I would have
understand that I would
misspoken
get
to
a
him because that's
variance.
how I understood it.
Yeah, and I'm like, he said, I understand that I would automatically get a variance, but I'm afraid what if I don't get a variance? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't give him me personally, I wouldn't give them a variance, but.
I think the
So-
concern with first of all, the emergency communication voice over IP, that seems fine to me. That's a no-brainer.
seems fine to me,
That's
too.
not a big
That
deal.
seemed fine to me.
Yeah,
We
any,
have
any
concern-
form of communication that's allowable
Well,
out for the technology
with
should
the
be fine.
exception that I just want to make sure that sometimes when you have a mobile phone, that I want it always, that we
The
have to
location.
guarantee that it's always there. You know what I mean? That they can't forget some days.
The
Right.
call box would have a mobile or
Yeah.
VoIP instead of a
Would it be a
landline.
The
call
new
box?
regulation
I'm just
says
saying.
if it's a new
Call
pool,
box.
it has to be hardwired though.
Right.
So it wouldn't allow that for a community. And that's what is hardwired. And,
But does it-
my idea is you can't bring it into a pool and, ruin it, or it doesn't walk away.
That's true. You don't want to self.
Yeah, I
and
didn't
my
want it to
emergency
walk
then.
away.
so that's
Can
my,
we say a permanent installation of a phone? Like, can we,
Or any kind of,
permanent phone,
we can.
rather
They
than hardwired?
wanted one a mobile phone that you could.
Well,
no, that's not
some
what
of
VoIP
them,
is.
even though they're permanent on a stand, they go to cell service. And they're, go to like a third-party contractor, and
Yeah.
is that acceptable to the board? The state says, it really should be hardwired. That's what they want.
Right.
Do they use the language hardwired?
Yeah.
Well, not in the regulation, but as a policy, that's what they like. They say, well, you can enforce it more because you're the municipality.
Right.
But it says an emergency communication system. It
Yeah.
doesn't really.
It depends on how, it just has to exist
Right.
and not be able
You
to
want
toss
when
in a
there's an
pool.
emergency for it to go.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So I'm sorry that I,
No, that's what, so,
But
I mean, I
I-
guess I would ask, what do you guys want to do then? Because,
I would
You
say
know-
I'm a little more lenient on the whole lifeguard thing. I understand if children are present, absolutely, but lifeguards are a premium, kind of like affordable housing nowadays, and do they not get to operate the pool if they've tried in good effort and good faith to get a lifeguard and none are available or can be hired? I think
And-
that's my
no,
concern.
then you could get somebody that's younger, or, I don't know.
my concern is that's the way they're operating now. They've operated always that way. We don't really have issues there. They have, maybe not lifeguards. They do have like a single person maybe that
Have they
has like
had issues?
CPR, and then they have pool attendants that all talk to each other. So
So-
they do have.
Yeah, in lieu of a lifeguard, though, if we can just say, there has to be someone on premise who has first aid training and CPR training. It's
But
not the
they've
same
had
thing as being
accidents
someone who can swim?
They have, yes.
They do.
They have.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that can be part of variance to 3 lifeguards. You have 1 lifeguard and a first aid CPR trained someone.
That would be good. That I would,
But that would be part of the variance.
That would be part of the.
that they would,
Yeah.
that it's not an automatic variance.
Yeah, it's not an automatic flat variance, but it's a conditional variance.
And this is, again, only for the extremely larger
But they
the
would have-
areas, pool
yeah.
areas. Like
All
the
of
town
them-
pool
all of them
always
have-
has a lifeguard, or they're supposed to always have a lifeguard.
To me, the easier way to do it is everybody should have a lifeguard. And if they don't want a lifeguard, they come for a variance. And that I would be happy to give variances to pools that are not that active, that don't have that children there.
Okay.
And if they could show that, and they could show that their pool inspections have been, without the board
Findings.
having to close them down,
Yeah.
then to me, I would happily give a variance. But for other places where there could be horseplay with, kids and everything in the pool,
We also talked, though, that, that I'd be able to sign off on the variances after the board did and just kind of keep them going.
yeah,
Okay.
So you would expect that each individual pool right now come in front of you to make that decision, and that's, I don't know, I didn't get a feeling that we talked
I
about
don't
something
care
like
about- I don't
that.
care about that.
We're talking about new pools or large, I'm sorry, public pools. Sorry, only public.
Right, exactly, so everyone that
Not
has
that
a
many in
public,
town, right?
so everyone that has a public
Semi-public.
pool or semi-public pool
Semi-public too.
would have to have a decision on whether or not to have a lifeguard. How is that decision being made?
Okay, well, the initial variance, they can come before us. And
every
then the
subsequent
renewals,
year,
you
it
can,
could
yeah,
just be-
we don't have to see them every year. It's not like renewing like a sushi or liquor license. We don't have to continue to renew it. It's a one until you build a new pool, I guess.
Okay.
And one was concerned about paying for the variance, and I didn't think that we would charge for a variance.
Sometimes we do, but this one, we didn't write it into the fee schedule, I believe.
Yeah, I think Mayfair was concerned about that, and I'm like,
We do for food inspections.
yeah, I can see that.
But, no, for this, I hadn't had plans to.
So, just to, if you don't mind, sorry, to be clear for me, I understand what everything Robin just said. Is that any difference on how it was written now? Because I feel like
I feel like it is.
it is a little bit, right?
I'm
So,
not sure.
no? All right, let me look
I'm
again.
trying to look it up too.
I can look at
Maybe the interpretation.
Right,
You
exactly.
just got to be more clear, is what I'm saying. So you don't have, you just got to be as clear as possible.
Yep.
Don't leave it. God knows I'm never clear. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh God, what page is it on? I'm sorry. Swimming pools, I found it.
This is the old
106.
one.
I found it,
The
106, yeah.
newer. So that might not be written in that one.
Yeah.
So I'll give this one to you in a sec, just when I could find it.
Private, that's residence, public, here we go.
It takes me a long time to find all of them.
That one has page numbers.
Oh, wait. Thank you.
No problem. All right.
Okay, you want to look at it first?
No,
So for the hardwired thing, we just need to give an et cetera list or an example list of what is considered to be acceptable hardwired. Again, I'm thinking on the communications because it's.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so as long as that's included, that's fine. What is cable acceptable of hardwire? What does that mean, right? Just better define that. 901, not such a lobby.
It doesn't say.
Okay. Bacterial quality, that's the same.
I think regarding the
16 years of age or older.
variances, a variance for lifeguards shall be requested in writing to the Board of Health upon a new pool permit and be valid for a calendar year if granted. All variances in good standing may be renewed by the health agent upon compliance with all applicable codes and provisions of the variance. The health agent may revoke or deny a variance request when, in their opinion, the pool is no longer in good standing. This decision may be appealed to the board. Upon enactment of this regulation, all pools currently permitted within the town of Foxborough shall have an improved variance for the number of lifeguards. Any pool obtaining an initial permit after the date of these regulations are enacted shall require a Board of Health variance. So that's the way it's written. So I would have to change it.
Ooh, I didn't see that there, and I just read it.
And I do think, if we do make that change, I think others, you might have some more. I've been told people will start filling in the pools with concrete if, we made them get lifeguards. So I think you'll get some more comments if we do go that route, but it's fine. Whatever the board would like.
Do you have a physical copy in front of you?
Yeah.
That's a little bit different from.
Figures I got off the page, though.
Where does it say the initial? I'm sorry, I still don't see that.
It's in the variance section.
At the end of the regulation?
109, is that the same, is that the right page?
Because it talked about the initial variance request, and that's all I had seen. I missed it.
It's in this section.
Yeah, I think the issue is the one lifeguard per 25 bathers, right? It's the ratio that's the problem.
No, they don't have any lifeguards there.
Right.
Well, I'm saying, but to say it, then at least 3 lifeguards are required is that's a big burden. And I'm, again, not, whereas 1 for 60, it sounds terrible, but people are also should be responsible for their own children. And I'm saying that as a mom.
And if there's ever an accident, we can bring them in front of the board and say, or they're...
Yeah, I know you don't want ever to get to that point. But
if their attendance system isn't working, then we can bring them in front of the board.
I don't even understand what that means, that upon enactment of this regulation, all pools currently permitted within the town of Foxborough shall have an approved variance for the number of lifeguards. What does that mean?
The number of lifeguards
Is
needed.
0?
No, for the number of lifeguards that are defined in our section, are defined in the regulation.
So basically, we're saying we're giving an
Automatic variance to all the...
Sorry.
So we're saying that if they don't have any lifeguards, they don't need any lifeguards.
If they currently operate without a lifeguard, that they're fine. Would they have the variance? They don't need a lifeguard. Until we bring them before the board, have a hearing, then we can make them get the lifeguard.
okay, so those are the existing operational pools that you're talking about.
Correct.
And does this also include, I assume, because it's public and semi-public, hotels and, I don't know, hotels that have pools? Because those never have lifeguards.
Right.
So-
So it'd be the same thing. They would have a variance
They would
to
have a
not
variance.
have one. And then we would be able to pull that back on a yearly basis or whenever we decided. And they could come in front of the board and you could say, you don't have that variance anymore, you need to get the lifeguards. But it's really kind of the way that we act now, just a
Okay.
little bit differently. They have a variance for it.
So
So we keep track of it a little bit better.
So if again, we're trying to make sure we're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, everyone with a pool right now, once we sign these and get them approved, is basically grandfathered in
basically.
until we have an issue.
And then all new
If something
ones.
happens in the next year and we have, because everyone has to get renewed, if we have complaints, if there are incidences, then we can require more than the approved variance.
And all new would have to come in front of the board to have to request that variance.
Request that.
But only new pools.
I just have a dumb question. That's what I'm here for. 105 CMR 43523. Is this the exact language from the state
For the
code?
pool, for the
Pools?
lifeguards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
state says that if you have lifeguards, then this is what you have to do, but doesn't say that you have to have lifeguards.
No, it says the Board of Health may require you to have
May.
lifeguards.
Yeah.
But if you don't have lifeguards, then you have to do these things, A, B, C, there's signage and
Yep.
safety equipment that you have to post if you don't.
So then basically, we're basically saying we're requiring the signage, safety equipment, and still have staffers, CPR certified, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which
And that's
they
how
should
it's
have
operating now,
now.
which they should have now anyways.
Yeah.
And that's how it's operating now.
I just
don't see the-
wanted us to be a safer community.
Oh, I get you. I understand. I just don't want to, again, I'm not the person to be like, let the kids drown. It's more about the, you don't want to make it so egregious that they're closing pools down and no kids can't even enjoy a pool in a hotel if we require a lifeguard, which are hard to find. That's all. I'm just saying there's a balance I'm hoping to
Yeah.
get with safety, as much safety precautions as possible in play.
I'm trying to do the best I can moving forward without
Yeah.
upsetting, and doing what the community wants too. So I'm trying to find that balance.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
tough.
that was best, but if you want to, go differently, absolutely, whatever you guys want.
I'm okay with it as written. It's my opinion.
We're a three-person board, so it's okay to differ.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are you looking at me?
No, I mean,
I've kind of expressed my opinion. If it's as is, as long as there's sufficient safety in place. I do agree, though, if it's like 60 or more, there at least needs to be at least one lifeguard. You have to put some effort forth to show you're trying to, help, your paying customers, let's say. So they're.
So
Town pool
there's
requires it, so.
Yeah.
I would definitely favor having some lifeguard than making sure that there was a sufficient number of lifeguards.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like, the 3 seems excessive to me when you can't even get one at certain
Well, we
locations.
don't know that. And
Well,
every
I know we
year-
don't know
every
that,
year
but-
it's different. And
correct.
so they could always come and say, we tried and we couldn't get any, but
Okay.
they don't have any right. They don't have any right now. But
Right.
But I appreciate that at least how the regs are written going forward, it's better. So I
Right.
do appreciate that.
And so some places, they don't have a lifeguard. But that's okay. The reg allows that as long as there's an emergency communication system, a shepherd's hook, or this or that.
Or there should be an adult. or
An
a
adult
par-
present,
Or
yeah.
at least the parent should be there.
Right.
I don't know what the rules are in all of the.
Yeah, we're
schools.
primarily speaking of those what this discussion is mostly about is those where children are present, right? Those under the age of 16, right? Because you assume any lifeguard would be 16 or over. Is that the threshold of, I don't know. And then how many, I think, again, I'm sorry, this is just me. I've lived here now 11 years. You think I'd be better abreast of how many pools there are in the town, but I don't know them. I don't really know them outside of the town pool.
There's 27, but that's spread out.
Wow. okay.
27.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's like, so you got 1, 2, 3, like 5, 6 hotels, motels. Did the motels have them?
No.
No.
Used to, not anymore.
So sporting places, the Y would count as
Yeah.
public, right?
Yep.
They have a lifeguard. They have lifeguards. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm not arguing against lifeguards. I just don't, I want to make sure we don't shut down pools because of a lack of personnel, you know?
You'd shut down a restaurant if they didn't have hot water.
I would. All right, fine. I don't know.
So am I am I leaving it? Do you want me to revise it at all?
I mean, right now, like the way you said it, with the variance, it's.
Is that
written as
okay? That moving forward we'll do this, but
It's okay with me.
Yeah. Because there's still the whole, like Robin was saying, they still come for the variance, and then the variance
Right.
is renewed if there's no incidences, right? That's what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yes, but you're leaving everything as status quo.
right,
It's-
Oh, what, the older ones? The
right.
previous
The ones that are already in place, it's status quo.
For a year,
Well, no, it's not just for a year, because
because you'll have to renew it every year.
We can, you can bring them in front of you. If we request someone to come in front of the board, they can come in front of the board, whether it,
I think for me, it's hard to create a ordinance, law, regulation without having more data, I guess. Like, that's why I asked about how many pools, is there a rate of, like, issues? Like, how many issues have they had? How many?
all I know is that every year, somewhere in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
kids die in swimming pools.
No, I know, usually they're residential,
And I
I would
don't want
say.
it to be in Foxborough when we're on the board.
I agree. I agree. I will say that the majority
That's all,
of kids that die
That's my logic
are
behind
in
it.
residential.
That's my logic behind it.
Generally, residential areas, residential pools are the primary killer of.
Every year.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm
No,
just trying to
no,
understand.
I'm
I'm trying to be even-handed.
Is it something that we could think about?
yeah.
Yeah.
If I have to come back with the housing, then we can come back about this too.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on,
Title V, I think.
Title
is next.
V. Yeah, so a few comments on Title V. One was the requirement to replace 30-year-old tanks was too stringent. I actually talked to Bill Buckley about this
He
as
had
well.
very good comments.
What's that?
He had very good comments.
He did. And, what we could do is just have, the engineer who builds a system or repairs a system sign off that it's still
Like what I had asked
structurally
tonight.
sound, which is, to me, I think that's a very good comment.
Because I had asked another engineer this week, and concrete lasts a long time.
It does. It does. So I think that is fine.
So that's taking out the 30-year replacement.
Yeah, so in lieu of replacing it after 30 years, you would have to have the the engineer or designer for the tank sign off that it's, structurally stable, there's no cracks.
And I think your regulation says anything over 10 years, 10 to 20 years need to be certified, or is that what it says? It should be any tank that stays in there should be certified,
Okay.
whether it's 30 years, 20 years, whatever.
Another conversation that we had was about the definition of a bedroom. So he thought the comment or the way that we made the definition of a bedroom would be very stringent. So one of the problems that we get a lot is, someone comes before us, they say, these are the 3 bedrooms and this is going to be the office. They build the house, then the people move in and that's now a 4-bedroom.
Right.
So I was trying to fix that with these regulations and calling a bedroom. He likes going with the Title V way, which is taking the rooms, dividing by 2, subtracting 1. But, I kind of like to look at a holistic approach and actually look at the site plan
Yeah.
and see what
Could
are,
possibly be a bedroom.
yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
what
it also needs, it still needs
105
to be
CMR 410 says is a bedroom.
Yeah, it still needs to be habitable. It still needs to have proper lighting and ventilation, and those are some things that we've run into issues with recently, so.
And I'm trying to be more consistent with the building and the assessor's office too, because, you know, they consistently go out, they do their inspections, they call something a 4-bedroom. We have, it's a 3-bedroom. It's always different, then we're trying to figure, you know, I feel like there's some change needed. That's my personal opinion, but it's up to the board.
So how would that work in harmony then with build, so would it have to be some, yeah, it's hot in here.
So
Harmony with saying what the building code is for bedrooms versus, like,
So
how many are
we would
allowed?
we would ask for the schematic, basically, of the house. So if someone gave us a plan for a septic system for a 3-bedroom home, we'd say, okay, well, what's the interior space look like? Count up the bedrooms and make sure if something was labeled a den or an office, but it had that closable door, it had windows,
It could
had
turn into
electric,
a
and it
bed-
could
yeah.
turn into a bedroom, we'd say, hey, that's
I mean, that's
a
literally
bedroom.
every door, that could be
Right.
any room, except for like the wide open spaces, so,
right.
yeah, okay. All right,
I'm in favor of keeping it the way you had it.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
yep.
I like it.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
I think there was one that talked about if it wasn't 1,500 gallons, you'd automatically have it upgraded to a 1,500-gallon tank
Yes,
for a
that's,
repair? Would you do that for a repair if it's like a,
if it's 1,000, it'd have to go to a 1,500. So the town requires 1,500-gallon tanks at the moment, and that's been here since I've been
okay.
from before me. So if we go and, there's a 1,000-gallon tank that, that wouldn't be allowed, they'd have to upgrade it.
I think that's been in place since 2014.
Do you see a problem with keeping it at the 1,000-gallon?
The more space, the better.
Yeah.
It does prevent backups and other things. It gives someone more time to have it pumped and to stop a problem from having. Bill actually made a comment stating that he
Series.
thought tanks should be in a series, which would even be more protection. So
So if you had a 1,000-gallon tank, would you allow another, instead of buying a 1,500-gallon tank, keeping the 1,000 and putting another 1,000-gallon tank there?
or have multiple, yeah.
So could that be incorporated in there, or would they just need a variance for that in our regulations, the way it is written?
We could incorporate it.
But how often would that come up, right?
You would
Like,
save
For new-
money, you would save money.
but
And
wouldn't,
it would be better. A
So-
1,000 and 1,000 would be better than a 1,500-gallon tank, right?
but it's still the requirement of the 1,500, so if you,
All together, if you add them together, it would be,
It'd be more, right.
So how would that write in what's changed, how would that change now? Like, how would you write that in? Is it?
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how that really changes.
You're talking about the
So-
cesspool type?
No, the
No,
septic
no,
tank.
well,
The septic
septic
itself,
tanks.
okay.
So rather than requiring one 1,500 tank,
You
the
people,
way
requ-
it's written now, it's like, if you have a repair, you have to upgrade to a 1,500-gallon tank. But
This
if
way
you
you
have a
would add
1,000-gallon
another.
tank there, and you buy another 1,000-gallon tank and you put them in
That's-
series, you'll
that's
have the
2,000.
space.
Assuming that original
But
$1,000.
it's cheaper than buying,
they're
Yeah.
buying a whole new tank.
1,500.
They're buying a whole new, yeah, and
So you-
assuming that for original 1,000 is not what's being repaired. That's kind of what I'm coming at.
Right.
Yeah. it's-
well, if the tank needs repair, then
Then it doesn't
obviously
come out
comes
anyways.
But if somebody could, just like,
Right.
when you always
If that's
say.
the reason why it failed, and it's it's an okay tank, you could
Yeah.
just add another one.
Okay,
Okay, I mean, that's fine. A 15,
as long as, and then the engineer can assume,
Or
as
it's
long as the engineer can
reasonable.
prove that there's
Yeah.
no damage, there's no, what's the word I'm looking for?
It doesn't require repair itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
The heat, why is it on so hard?
Because the door was closed. That's why I went to go
Thank
open
you for
it.
opening the door. I'm like,
They were vacuuming and mopping, and then
okay. So, sorry, back to the 30-year-old thing.
Yes.
Now, that's just, there's no longer going to be a requirement to replace it, just sign off from, just a word, you're just going to reword it so that,
There has to be a sign off.
sign off by an engineer.
Correct.
Okay, yep. So that's the rewording, great.
there was a comment. Sorry, there was a comment of whether we want to use newly built or new construction. I think new construction's in the Title V.
Yeah, and I agree with that comment.
That's fine.
That was just writing it. I'll
That's-
change it to new construction.
Okay.
And also, the definition of wetland is sort of vague. There are many different types of wetlands, so we'll be, I can kind of define that better as well.
Trowbridge Associates was concerned about feet of the leaching field to a wetland or surface area and the tank. Do we make exceptions for repairs for that?
Do we make what?
Exceptions for repairs for, it's at 150 feet from a leaching field, but he thinks that repair should be 75.
So that's
One today.
Title
Yeah.
5, and as in Bill's comment, there's, bordering vegetated wetland
Right.
and just a wetland, and, and it differs
Right.
between which one. I think our regulations were written regarding wetlands to a surface water body or a drinking water source rather than, just a regular wetland. So, trying to better define that
Right.
will work all around, so it'll be more in line with the actual Title V.
Okay, thank you.
So that's in response to the one
Yes.
from
Yep.
Pittsfield? The
But we won't
Trowbridge?
change the numbers.
What's that?
Are we changing the actual number requirements or just the wording around it?
I would leave that to you guys.
I would just change the wording to better define
Yeah.
wetland and surface water.
Yeah.
And they can come in for the variances like they have been.
They
for-
can, they can come in from the variances. We didn't change any of the actual feet definitions.
Yeah.
Those were changed. I don't know, Diane, if you remember the discussion around that, but those were changed back in 2014. No? Okay.
Leave me out of this.
So yeah, like unless we have updated data and science to change those, I don't feel confident to change that. We can update the wording.
Right.
I'll
But that's-
take a closer look too, and I can come back the next meeting, and I can give you all the setback amounts, type of wetlands, so you have a better idea.
Sure.
I don't have that prepared today.
That's fine.
But
That's okay.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Okay. And then, did we already discuss the septic for rental units? Is that the next? Did we go over that?
I
This-
don't
The
think
one
we will.
comment about,
Oh, no, someone commented about the distance to groundwater, raising it for Zone 2s, which has been that way before I was here. So, that's the way Foxborough has always done it. So
We can,
that would be up to you guys. I mean, more
Talking about this one.
separation
this one.
is better.
We talked about that one. We talked about the definition of repair, right?
Mhm.
So we're good with that one. This is something. Okay, I think this is about if, repairs could add thousands of unnecessary costs for rentals if a house if it were to be sold. And I don't see that as something we've talked about or anything that we've wrote in. that would apply that.
Yeah.
It's,
That's, I mean, some of his comment is to the existing, like, we didn't necessarily make it more burdensome.
yeah, we didn't change anything.
Yeah, see, it's the height of the
Yeah,
septic
is that what
system
you're
needs to
talking
be able to, yeah, that's what I was just saying.
That's the only, you think that's the only part of that? Okay.
Yeah, so this system has to be raised a foot more than what it does pursuant to Title V, especially if it's in a zone 2 to protect the surface water body. And that's what was here when I got here, so. And more space between that and the groundwater equals more protection
Right.
for that. We see people come in front of the board that ask for 2 feet. So raising it is, we're just trying to protect it.
Yep. All right, so then,
Okay, but
And then I had a
Fine as
comment
is.
that, I'm sorry, that I didn't catch when we were reviewing Title V, but for the disposal works permit holder, can you require them in our regs to pick up a signed copy of the approved plan and have them on its person while installing the Title V system? I've come across where, at least twice, where people were installing the wrong system because they had a plan that wasn't approved.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever had a problem like that.
We haven't, but, it could be an issue.
Thank you.
time.
um,
So for the tobacco regulations, we received comments that agreed with the Board of Health's position, so that was great. The toilet regulation, we received comments that we should add language about proper cleaning and sanitization of toilets, removal of waste and nuisances that come from the portable toilets, which could be added. I think the regulation, the way it sits, is before my time was added because of, there weren't enough and we have a stadium.
yeah,
So if we want to adopt them to have more stringent cleaning and sanitizing,
so just
that'd
more,
be up to the board.
just more language about toilets or the porta potties.
Yep.
Okay.
We don't get many complaints regarding the stadium porta potties. We do more often hear that, a bus or something gets tipped over or a bus loses their septic load or something like that, and, they have to work to remediate it. But the toilets, we don't receive many complaints on.
So what modifications would need to be done then? Just,
It should probably just a quick sentence. That's,
okay. Cle-
yeah,
Clear up
all-
the cleaning.
Yeah. Board of Health upon inspection, they should be clean and sanitary,
Yep.
no undue odors.
They'll do what they can. They're
Right.
toilets.
They have full-time personnel on site, so they're there every game day.
Okay.
Then we just.
So
got
I
a
guess
co-
that's,
Would that apply to contractors working, let's say you have a contractor working on your house and they,
no, this exempts
okay,
that.
just wanted to
Um,
clarify.
It actually, and it does add something in there that, so pursuant to our housing code and our food code, you're not supposed to have a portable toilet on the site of a food establishment, or, you're not supposed to live and have a portable toilet there forever outside your house. So this regulation does kind of go along with that, and it asks people if they're going to have those sorts of things outside, that they get a variance from the
For like new
board.
construction, those sites and stuff like that, or?
It doesn't say, and if that's something that the board wants to entertain as well, that's in there.
I'm just trying to think of
Oh.
places where porta potties come up, like it's special events, like we have on the Common,
That's-
and then there's new construction, when the guys are there all the time building a house or something, and there's nowhere else to go. Yeah, I don't know if you want to include anything more specific, just, it's a generalization, just generally, all porta potties.
Yeah, I mean, if we have anything on the comment, that's usually only going to be there for
Right.
8 hours.
Yeah, and it's new,
max.
it's always new and clean from the
Yeah.
delivery, so.
I believe this states, more than 7 days or 14 days.
Okay, then we're good.
Hold on, I'll
fine.
look.
So the only things I could think of more than 7 days, that would, like I said, would be when I see, you see new construction, then oftentimes just porta potties provided for the,
Or like massive
workers.
repairs.
yeah, massive, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just, I know we already finished with Title V. I just want to go back one more time, because I apologize, I didn't see this one in the back end, and I think we already covered this. The definition of repair, that was one of the person's concerns, but we were going to kind of just clarify the language of what counts as a repair to a septic tank.
To a septic tank?
Well,
or-
this person, looks like it's a construction company. These rules lack clarity around the definition of repair.
So I think, it depends on what the component is, if, nowadays septic systems can be very complicated systems. If it's a septic tank, that's a repair. But if it's an electrical piece or if it's maybe a float, does that rise to the level of having to get a permit, which is a repair? So,
Okay.
I mean, I think that's the question.
Yeah. So how best can we, if this was already covered when I was reading quietly to myself, I apologize, but I don't know if that we covered that we were going to add any additional.
But
Clarity
in your
for-
fee schedule, don't you have for, like a component?
It
as
does,
opposed-
and that
yeah,
component would be either the septic tank or the
D-box,
SAS,
or-
or the D-box, or, yeah, that would be one
Okay.
of the components. Things aren't that typically we wouldn't charge a fee for, but we have charged fees for, like, say if a septic has discharged to the surface, and we sent a failure notification, then we want to have that documented and on file that this is what they did to remedy it. So
Okay.
that's been taken as a repair.
Okay.
And that's
I'm just trying to figure out what
That's
this
it.
person found was cumbersome and onerous to property owners. I'm just not sure what,
Usually that's not I think most of the component, or if it's a system or a component or something that is going to be free, I think that's something that the board could handle without us being like, too prescriptive on it, because it, put us in a box where,
okay,
it'd be better to give Matt
Yep.
discretion.
okay, makes sense. That's it. I'm sorry to have rehashed the Title V,
That's
but,
okay.
it's okay.
And then the last comment we got was the tobacco regulations were good.
yeah, no
You should
no
say that.
negativity on tobacco regulations. I was shocked, but I
Even
don't
the
know if Betsy's
smoking
heard it
bars.
from people personally, but not in,
Yeah.
not in writing.
Um,
So that's good.
yeah, so, and I think that's all we have for comment.
Yeah, it was good. I thought it was good.
Great. All right. So let's move on to,
Oh, so what are our next steps?
Next steps, so I will make the changes that we discussed today. We'll bring them back in front of the board, have those final discussions, and then
public
we can
hearing.
set a date for public hearings.
So do we do a public hearing for all of them the same night,
Yeah.
just like we did this? Okay,
Yeah.
We'll attempt it.
okay.
I mean, what's the standard? Would it be broken up into two, or just,
Well-
it's best just go all out just to begin with and see what happens,
Well,
if
I mean,
anything?
Well, I would think we would just set it out and we'll try to do as much as we can within a reasonable amount of time. If we need to table that discussion.
Table the rest.
Okay.
Follow up, if it needs to be 2 nights worth of discussions, fine.
Yep.
Okie dokie. Just a question.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But if, like I said, it's been out there for a couple months, we've gotten a lot of really good comments, we'll make some revisions. And if we don't get any more comments after that, I think we're good to hear a vote to it.
Okay.
Cool.
We can move forward with 55 Fairway Lane.
Well, do you want to do, so this one would be you, the warrant article discussion, I don't know. This came
Oh,
up
sorry,
after
I
our
completely-
conversation.
Yeah, okay, so,
I'm
Do
not
we
familiar
have
with this.
Do we have a warrant, do we have a town charter committee in town?
Not at the moment, but I think, after asking a couple questions about this, I think they would like to form something like that.
A charter
Uh,
committee?
Yeah, to define or to adopt any new structure that the town would think. So I think it's something that the select board wants to do. They haven't done it yet, but I think it's on the horizon.
So who came up with this
Yeah,
draft?
that was my question too, because I had not
Well,
seen
that
this.
was, yeah, no, that was me, so.
Okay.
Oh,
And I'll give you the feedback. So I had a conversation with Betsy.
yep,
And,
Betsy.
Betsy said, hey, this might be a good idea. She was running, what were my thoughts? I said, I want to stay clear, but I will help you. So I think, this is definitely a board decision, whatever you guys want to do. I did draft something just because if you want to get this on, it needs to be done now. We're in the warrant season. We're getting ready to, bring stuff to town meeting. I did ask the town manager's office and the clerk's office their thoughts. The town manager's office alerted me that, the select board is looking at this too. I guess there may be other boards and other committees that feel the same way that Betsy does. So I think there'll be some conversation moving forward from different committees. And I did ask the town clerk, who, was a little bit concerned about, making it an appointed because someone could stack a board. But besides that, but it's whatever works best for the board and however we see fit. So I'll leave that. This is what I created. So we had something as a placeholder.
yeah.
And that's all it was. It was a placeholder. And I'll leave it to you guys.
So I can comment on that. I've been on the board, this will be 4 years now,
4 terms or 4 years?
4 years.
Okay.
I came on in 2020.
Okay.
That was the first time I ran, so this was 4 years out. This board has been interesting because we've had a couple people who have been on the board for more than a decade, sometimes multiple decades. And there's been stability in that. These last, I would probably say like 5 years, it's been harder to get people to run. I don't think it's just our board. I don't think our board is unique in that, but when we have 3-person boards, it kind of makes things difficult to vote on. If we had a 5-person board, I wouldn't even say this would be much of a problem. But because it's only 3 of us, I just said, hey, let's bring it up. Let's talk about it. Do we want to have, and I'm also speaking from the perspective that I've been on the board for the last few years, and the last few years, apart from me, no one else in town has stepped up to pull papers. And
Well, Robin did.
you pulled papers last year.
Yeah,
Lies. You pulled papers.
yeah.
Sorry.
I jumped in when no one did. I was about to say, I'm like,
Sorry.
Robin
I
did.
was traumatized.
See, my addition here has traumatized her so much.
Yes. and honestly, and that was a very scary year because that was in the heat of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's that fear of what happens to a board, especially the 3-person board, if no one runs, no one's a write-in, and no one's interested.
Yeah.
So, I think if that's the case, I think we do have the option to appoint if we end up being a 2-person board, so we can maintain that.
2-person?
The select board would
If somebody
appoint.
doesn't run.
Yeah,
or
if somebody-
no
Oh,
writing.
I get you. I'm sorry.
So
3 is the minimum.
Three's the minimum,
Yeah, just making
right?
sure,
'Cause
yeah,
you need-
obviously.
Three's
yeah.
the only amount right now because of the town charter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so if,
that was part of it, is to make it three to five.
so, I mean, I thank you for bringing it on the agenda so quickly. We don't have to keep this warrant. I just wanted to be able for us to have this conversation to figure out, like, what do we want to do?
And I will say, we have had a couple people approach myself and say, hey, I'm interested on serving on the board. And then I tell them, well, it's elected. And then they go away. So, I mean, that does happen. But
Running isn't fun.
Running isn't, it's not fun. I mean, it's not even the running part sometimes. It's, well, I guess that is running when you're trying to
Asking
collect the signatures, and it's, the weather's lovely this time of year.
Yeah, it's not the best time to collect signatures, I have to
Yeah.
say. That is something to,
So it can be
maybe
a little,
all boards should take that into consideration about the timing of these.
yeah, it can be a little bit daunting when
Yeah.
it's 13 degrees outside for weeks on end, and you're going door to door, having conversations with everybody. I mean, it's what has to happen. I've done it a few times, but
So a board, whether they're elected or appointed, they still have the same powers once they sit at this table. So it doesn't matter to me. And you're right, I think there are more people that might be interested if they didn't have to run. I was just surprised to see that, because there's a lot of boards in town that are having, we're not the only one. So that's why I said, I didn't think there was a charter committee. And I'm like, who put this on? Because I think the Board of Health is one of the most powerful boards. And I didn't want anybody to think that we were diminished because we were appointed, although that's not the case. My only
which is a fair
tweak that I
concern.
would have in the warrant, I would think that we should be appointed by the selectmen and not by one person.
It says, and approved by
I would be.
the Board of the Select Board, right?
I think
Oh, no,
we-
I'm
I
sorry,
think
subject
we
to
should apply
confirmation
the
by the select
selectmen.
by the select board.
Would this,
we
Go
don't
ahead.
we don't have
But,
Yeah, and
we don't
that's,
have to keep this.
but I also
Don't be sheepish about it. It's okay to talk
No,
about it.
I mean, it's not about being sheepish. Like I said, I think I wanted us to have the conversation
Yeah.
of, do we want to allow that within our board, or do we want to stay with the status quo? If we want to allow it, let's see if we can draft something. Otherwise, this is the status quo.
I think this, first off, I'm just going to say right off the bat, this probably would not pass in a town meeting.
Why not?
I've been to many. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, and I don't mind being wrong. I think it's a good idea in that, based on your concerns, I just think, assuming, of course, that the select board is still elected. So then that would, and if other boards were to adopt this, then
Select
the
board
only,
would
the only
always
election process would be for the most, essentially the governing board, the governing body of our town, which is the select board,
So
right?
I worked in a community where some boards were elected and some were appointed. So it doesn't mean that all boards would be appointed or all boards would be elected. It's just, that's why I said, like, who else or what else?
Well,
And
that's
then
what
I
I'm-
would also think, and then I just think that we just have to have the discussion if you want 3 or 5. I think in some ways it's easy to have 5. Sometimes the meetings are longer if you have 5,
I mean,
just so you know that.
As she's looking at the clock now. We had regulations to go over. Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I'd be curious what other boards, like the planning maybe, or other boards that have the same issue.
yeah, I'm curious to see. Like, we don't have to run and do anything. I'm curious to see what the town decides. I know a lot of other boards around the state are elected, and there's been good reason for that and good examples for that.
You're talking about boards of health?
Oh, yeah, boards of health staying elected boards.
But at the same
But
time, they don't
but
have to walk
again-
around in February to get
But
signatures,
again,
right?
according to Mass General laws, whether you're elected or appointed, we should, afterwards, we should have the same
Yeah.
powers,
You
so.
should,
Yep.
assuming
Yep.
that the appointments are fair.
Yep.
Well, the reason I was saying, as long, there has to be some accountability to, the problem with appointments is why I think this would never pass in this town. The accountability is to the people, right? So there has to be the confirmation subject to the select board, assuming then that the selectmen, the board of selectmen, the select board, would always be an elected, then
I
that
don't-
the
I
power
don't
still
see
lies in
that.
the people to be elected.
Yeah, I don't see how they could not be an
Yeah, the
elected
select board would have to be.
I
Yeah,
don't see how they could not be.
yeah,
But
that's
the
what I'm
other-
saying. As long as that, then there's representation, then that's, you're still at the, you're still maintaining the representative.
And the only other tweak that I would say to be in the, in that draft would be, what does due course mean? Does it mean that because, let's say we wanted to have brand-new tobacco regulations and the selectmen said, no, do we get fired or removed or?
Yeah, that's actually a good.
Yeah, and I think that was the
that was-
town
that was-
clerk's,
Yeah, that was.
that was
yeah.
their comment, that they could stack a board.
Because that's,
Yes.
there were controversial comments made in, I don't want to say the towns because they're pretty small, in Western Mass. And the Board of Health, which was an elected board, made decisions that was contrary to the opinions of the town manager. And there was a lot of back and forth, and they almost, they involved their lawyers. Long story short, the board maintained their ground for a long time and eventually folded and rescinded their decision, which they legally did not have to do, because it was well within the jurisdiction and the purview of the Board of Health. But after enough pressure from that one person, there were changes, and it was a big change, and it was a big impact to the town, and it was interesting. It was an interesting conversation because other boards of health agreed that that was the right decision that the Board of Health made, and if it was in their town, they probably would have made the same decision. So the idea of having a biased Board of Health, given what we, look over, is scary. So
Yeah, I think,
it's a very true concern.
yeah. I don't know, I think we have a good balance here.
Okay.
But 5 is, I also think 5, with the exception of us dragging on meetings for Betsy's sake, like, it's great. If
I
people
also,
would-
I think 5 would work, but then you have to find 5 other people who are willing to, or 2 other people who
Yeah.
are willing to be on the board, which might be a little bit harder, but it's easier to have a quorum.
Or it could be 3 elected, 2 appointed.
Have-
But
have
these
you
are the-
seen-
Put a
have you
burden
seen
for the
that?
people
I
that
don't
are
know.
to be elected.
But I'm just, these are the this is great that we're having this conversation just
Yeah,
to begin with,
I-
and
I think it'd be really
More
interesting
power.
to see what other, if any other boards have the same, I don't know what discussions have been, this was new to me, that's all I'm saying.
It was, like I said, it came up, we were having a
Yeah.
conversation, it came up as part of the conversation, I felt like
No
you guys
problem
might be
with it. I'm
interested
just-
in it, so I figured we put it on.
No, I
I
think
just don't think it'll pass.
it's something that, there's good pros and cons.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so, we can hold off
Yeah.
until we have more insight, more information, we feel strongly about it one way or another, but,
I'm
Absolutely.
also a big fan of, and this is my work too, it's so hard to get people to work together and not be in these siloed conversations. And we are a town, and we're all members of the town, and we all want to work together in these things. And I think if this is true for one board, it should be true for multiple, and vice versa. So is there kind of do we just on our own go out and talk to people on other boards and be like, hey, but does that break open meeting law? Do we have a powwow or a
town charter.
town charter committee? Like, would that be with the board
Well, Matt,
members?
you said that they're thinking of putting together a town charter committee?
yeah, I don't think we have a charter, but we do have governing documents, and they're looking at those governing documents, and the town would like to review them as part of, the new town manager's goals.
Do you get
And,
involved in those conversations?
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
And, we'll be part of those and give our comments because, I think others feel the same way that are having the same thoughts you guys are. So it's a discussion that needs to be had. Yep. So more to come, I guess.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Okay, now we can go back to 55 Fairway Lane.
So on January 3rd, 2024, we responded to a complaint from a resident that was concerned about the individual that was living at the property. When I went there, found out the property was open to the weather, didn't have utilities, no water, water's been shut off. And then, upon my interactions with others around the town and the community, I found out the individual that was there was actually had a home and had a safe residence elsewhere, but frequented this location. So what I did was I did, based on the current property and the condition it's in, I did give them a condemnation notice, posted it on the door. It is really the mortgage holder. I sent the notice to the mortgage holder, hoping that they would be able to secure it. It is, I think it's still open to the weather, but now that the time has passed to file an appeal, we'll look to go there, close it up. So it is in a nuisance, and hopefully we'll move to get the mortgage company involved and hopefully get the property moving.
And there was a person living there, right?
Yeah, so has that person been,
Are they not?
So they're
taken
not,
care of?
yeah, they're living somewhere else.
Well,
but
they had a place, you said.
So they have a home somewhere else, but they frequent it. They do live there from time to time because they're just having a hard time letting it go. And I don't want to go into
Okay.
further. We're working
That's
with
fine.
social services.
great, that was kind of the answer I was going for, yeah, so working with social services, great.
To, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, like I said, my only concern when I read this was imminent safety.
Mhm. Yep.
Just so long as they're safe now, it's cold. So that's,
It's hard when someone has a home to go back to, yet, and they come back to break in. And, I feel like they have what they need. It's just trying to stop that behavior. And
Yeah.
social services is doing their best and working with all the relevant parties to kind of solve that issue right now.
okay. That's fine. Okay, so then where are my minutes?
7 Revere Road.
we're on to the regular
7
updates.
Revere.
So I'm going to do the updates, and then
Yep.
I'll
Thank
get
you.
you guys out of here fast.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find my agenda.
7 Revere Road, just an update on that. I did meet with Mr. Bonifilio. He met with social service organizations, and things are going in the right direction.
Good.
Filled out applications and to try to get help. So that's moving forward. I'll follow up in about another 30 days and let the board know. 20 to 22 School Street, again,
Excuse me for a second.
Yeah.
So he's still living there at 7 Revere, he's still there?
yep, he's there, he's in the trailer,
The neighbors
but
are,
he's applied to be elsewhere.
And the property is cleaned outside?
The tires, the
Okay.
tanks, yeah,
Yep.
okay. So, I mean.
I don't know what it looks like today, but, it was.
Okay,
Okay.
20 to 22 School Street, the owner has till March 1st, basically, to be compliant with the back staircase and the egress. That we asked him in April 1st to connect to sewer. It's been slow, I haven't really seen movement, but if, movement,
Hey, you got plans.
doesn't happen.
So, yeah,
right.
so the plans came in, and there's also, but this is still on court order too.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Plans came in, and he's, he
Working with the
met
Posca.
with Chris Gallagher today regarding sewer tie-in fees and Lance as well. So they're working on
And you
those
got
things.
Terminex to come in, right?
Terminex is 255 South Street.
Oh, okay, sorry.
255 South Street, yes, I did receive a contract for an exterminator, which is progress. We're actually by the date that we should have been in court. The court hasn't scheduled anything yet. I did talk to the attorney handling it for us at the AG's office. She believes it'll be another couple weeks, 2-3 weeks at the most. So once I have that date, I'll go out, do another inspection, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, I did see the one day I saw the Terminex folks out there, just one though, I don't know. I feel like that would need multiple.
It was an extensive contract,
Okay.
to say the
Okay,
least.
good.
175 Mechanic Street is now owned by the town. Congratulations. I know that was a long time coming. It is a win, so the town did successfully foreclose on that. That's a property that has the fence around it,
Yep.
and it's collapsing.
Yep.
I think the town manager's goal is to have the select board say we can dispose of that and put it out to the public right away. So that should be coming. I don't know, that goes through like a request for proposal process or invitation to bid, I want to.
Yeah.
So that should be coming up soon.
Was there any further comment? I assume not, from the former estate?
No, so we can't find the
Okay.
estate.
Okay.
So they've never commented on anything.
Okay, and then I just have a follow-up question for 22 school. I know that some of those residences were emptying out, and we were placarding them. Are we still doing that, or?
Recently, no one has, to
Has
my
left.
knowledge,
Okay.
has moved out. When I was there last time, the same places were vacant
Occupied.
that had been.
Okay.
But have the repairs been done there so that he can? No?
No,
I mean,
March 1st. He has till March, unfortunately, I can't until March 1st.
Okay, March 1st, you got it.
okay,
That's what the court said.
okay,
But you've seen plans is what Robin was referring to before.
yeah,
Yeah, he did, he submitted plans, and just like we said, he had to remove the back deck, and that needs to be open to the weather, so it lets light in, because that's the way it was designed, and some of the things that he, were brought up in the variance request, were shown in those plans that we were trying to tell him, so it was
we-
great to see that.
we don't have to approve that plan, do we?
No, that's
That's
building
already-
department, yeah.
Okay,
And then future agenda items, if there's anything that, you want. We do have Megan coming starting soon, so I will be, bring her here, the new inspector, when she starts.
So can you tell us about her?
Yay.
I was just going to ask.
Do you want me to let her do it?
I want to,
It's up to you. Well, so she's, she hasn't started yet, if that's all right.
But are you excited?
I'm excited because I need some
Why
help.
would he not be
I'm
excited?
very,
Gotta-
we need the help, absolutely.
And does this person have experience or?
She does, so not in public health, in the restaurant industry. So she is a regional manager for a specific restaurant chain, has a lot of food experience. We'll have to catch her up on other things.
yeah,
But personality-wise, I think she'll fit right in, and she wants to change something new. And she worked a long time for her last employer, which is great, so, yeah.
When does she start?
29th, next week.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay.
So we'll talk to her next
so we'll
time.
talk to her at the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Yay.
She'll be invited.
Yukon.
What's that?
Yukon.
Did you say new?
Yukon.
Oh, Yukon Tab. So 131 Moore Street, the Yukon Tab program, we did get another grant for another student. So you'll remember Owen did a couple of projects for
Yeah.
us. Someone's going to help us out regarding what will be on the warrant is, does the town accept 131 Moore Street? So,
This warrant coming up?
yeah,
Who's writing that?
I already wrote it.
You already wrote it? Okay.
Of course I did.
Why would I ask? I'm sorry, I didn't, the way he made it sound like it's on at work. We have,
No, it's already on there. So at least I attempted to put it on there. And Pat Costello, town solicitor,
that was
looked
kind of my
at it.
question.
He made a few minor edits and changes to it, and it's good to go. So the plan is to get it on the next warrant.
Cool.
I mean,
No, that'd be great if we could.
I
I didn't mean anything insulting by it. I was just saying,
No,
when you mentioned Costello, I was assuming it was town attorney.
And
That's
so
why I
this
asked.
person will be doing PR then?
Exactly. So what they're going to do is they're going to create maybe like a website for us that has, other towns that have done similar things and success stories and what the grant, what we can do if we do get the property and with the grant money and things like that.
I think,
for us.
I think that'll be helpful so that people can know, see it, understand what
Yeah,
they're voting
absolutely.
on before they vote on it.
We could make.
They can go back to all of our meeting minutes
Yeah.
and videos, because
I have a lot of video from that day. If you want to hear everything that was ever said by the EPA folks.
And that is all I have.
Okay. I'm ready to move on to the minutes.
Alrighty, so if anyone's had a review, I'll just make a motion. Do you want us to do a motion?
Yep.
Let's do that. Motion to accept the meeting minutes for November 27th, 2023 as written.
I second.
Any comments, concerns, questions, queries?
I don't think so. I was just doing one more check. This was there was a lot that happened that day. Yeah, there was a lot that happened that day.
Yeah.
But this, I looked at it briefly beforehand, so I'm just double checking that I had no questions.
Yeah. It looked good to me.
Yep.
It was nice to remember everyone's comments. It looked good.
Okay.
Okay, so do we want to vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 3 ayes, no nays. And so that's it. If you would like to adjourn.
Like, I see that eye. I see it. I don't know. I want to draw this out longer because your bedtime's soon. Motion to adjourn the meeting for January 22nd, 2024.
Second.
Any comments, questions, concerns, queries?
Good
No?
meeting.
All right.
Good meeting. Yeah, that's my comment. I think it was a good one.
All those in favor?
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
All right, thank y'all. Sorry.
Bang your gavel. Or the sports go.
No.